Hi, this is a video about how to do invisible bar line writing in music with eighth notes. In other words, we need to learn how to write rhythms that include eighth notes correctly. And this involves an awareness of something that's called the invisible bar line, which is basically between the last part of beat 2 and the beginning of beat 3. We want to be able to see the beginning of beat 3. This is an example of a bass line that has been written that sounds fine, but it's been written incorrectly. This is what it sounds like. Well, and so on. So it sounds fine, but a professional musician would not be able to read it if it was written like this, or not very well, because it's not written correctly. So what we need to do is find where beat 3 begins so that we can prepare the music and easily be able to see the beginning of beat 3. So the one method for doing that is called the dot method, and that's where you apply a dot for each eighth note. And we're in 4/4 time. That means there's 8 eighth notes in a measure. So we have a dotted quarter note here. So that's 3 eighth notes. That's 1.5 beats. Each eighth note is worth half a beat. So there's 3 eighth notes in that note. So we put 3 dots here, and then we circle them because that's all part of one note. There's a quarter note, 2 dots, 2 eighth notes in that note, and we circle it to show that that's a separate note. Another quarter note, 2 dots circled, and now an eighth note circled. Then the next step is that we count to 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we put a line right after the 4th dot. Because what we're doing is we're doing 1 and 2, and we're finding where the and of 2 is, and we're putting our line and showing where beat 3 begins. 3 and 4 and. And this, because the line is going through a circle, that means that this symbol needs to be split up so that we can see the beginning of beat 3. This symbol is fine because it's not affecting beat 3, but this one has to be split up. Okay, we're back now. I copied this down here, and remember that this is the one that has to be changed. So what I do is I select it, and I'm going to turn it into an eighth. I'm going to turn this quarter note into 2 eighth notes. I need an eighth note on this side, an eighth note on that side. And then I'm going to need to tie them together because I still want this sound. I still want it to sound like this sound is lasting for one beat. It's just that we have to turn the one beat into 2 halves of a beat that are tied together like this. And now it's still going to sound the same, but it's correctly written because we can see the beginning of beat 3. In a different view, so you can see I'm going to mute the lower one, and so we're only going to hear the first one up here. Okay, and now I'm going to mute that one and play the new one. Can you hear how they sound exactly the same? So we're not changing the sound, we're changing the way it's written, and we're allowing ourselves to see the beginning of beat 3. Just to recap, you apply 1 dot to each eighth note of time, circle the durations, and then draw a line after counting to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And anytime the line goes through a circle, that means you have to split up that symbol and into different note values and then tie across. We'll do this one now. Now, why don't you pause the video and try to do this one. Take a second to see if you can figure it out, apply the dots, and then start the video back up and see if you got it right. Okay, this is the correct application of the dots. 1 dot, 1 eighth note. Half note includes 4 eighth notes. It's 2 beats divided in, each beat's divided in half, so that makes 4 eighth notes. 1 eighth note, 1 eighth note, 1 eighth note. Okay, now pause the video again and see if you can draw, count to 4. So we'll do that right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, and draw a line. And you can see that this symbol is going to have to be split up into a note that's worth 3 eighth notes and a note that's worth 1 eighth note. Then redraw down here. Pause the video and see if you got it right. Okay, so this is the correct answer. And again, we'll do the same thing we did before. We will mute the bottom one. We'll listen to the upper one. Here it is. Okay, now I'll mute that one and I'll play the one that's written correctly. And you'll notice it sounds exactly the same. That's what we want. So let's examine how we did that. 1/8 note, still 1/8 note. This symbol was incorrect. That's what the line shows because we had to draw a line through the circle after counting to 4. So we had to split it up into 3/8 notes, which is a dotted quarter, and 1/8 note, which is an eighth note. But we tied them together because we still want that full value. And then these 3/8 notes just came down. Now, one final point, you'll notice that all these eighth notes are beamed together. This is another attribute of the invisible bar line, is that as long as a group of eighth notes are on one side or the other of the invisible bar line, you can beam them together. If they were going across beat 3, you would not beam them. So if that was where beat 3 began, you would not put a beam there. But so you never beam across beat into beat 3. You can beam on either side if there's consecutive eighth notes. Okay, that's it. Finish the rest of the example. This is, again, labeled as 1.3 calligraphy invisible bar line number 1. It looks like this in the book, and that is page 18 in the supplement.